You're locked in for the CEO of You. My name's Jacob Ingham-Gore. I'm a fully certified NLP and empowered intelligence coach, and we've got an absolute belter of a podcast. Anyone can escape the matrix, but first step of escaping the matrix.
Jacob Ingham-Gore,
a university student dropout who has hit rock bottom in the past.
I lost my girlfriend, I lost my dog, I lost my flat, I lost my job, and obviously spent all my money. So I was like, shit.
Found his purpose in being an NLP coach.
And is now helping people across the country destroy their deep-rooted trauma and live a better, fulfilled life.
Like, we are so much capable of so much more. We're just so dumbed down from the food we eat, the air that we breathe, every little detail of it. And when you're in the matrix, you're in this state of like, you're sat, you're watching the news, you're doing your 9 to 5. Nothing wrong with a 9 to 5, but are you in that slave mentality or you're in that free mentality? You could go down this rabbit hole of like escaping the matrix and all this. A way I like to live my life now is you create your own reality. If I was to start all over again, there'd be 2 things I'd do. The one would be personal development, and the second thing is...
Thank you, Jacob. We're ready for a belter of a podcast. But before the belter, I got to ask you this first question. Callum was just on before you, and he said you was in university studying geology. My bro, why geology out of all things?
Great question.
And what is it?
Oh, great question. Why? No fucking idea. What is it? Looking at rocks. You just get trapped in the system, don't you? So I went down a rabbit hole like everyone does. Didn't know what I wanted to do in my life, and it's just something I did at A-level. And, you know, a lot of people go to university to buy time. That's exactly what I did. Didn't know what I wanted to do. I was pushed in that direction by parents, by society, by school, sixth form, whatever. And only when I was at university, I had a mad realization when I was like, this is not how I want to live my life. So that's kind of how I got into it.
How was you living your life?
At uni?
Yeah.
So, to be honest with you, I was just shagging birds, taking drugs and partying. To be completely real with you. And yeah, it was just like, I got started. I remember just like looking at like the lecturers there. And it was this one guy, this one lecturer. He was about this high. He was bald and he had a beer belly. Looked like a proper virgin. And I was thinking to myself, like, that is not how I wanted to end up. And I was looking around, half the people in there were hungover, they were asleep, they all looked like just not the type of people I wanted to be. And that's when it started to hit me, and I was just there partying. I didn't really know what the alternative was, so I carried on. It was actually halfway through my second year that I ended up dropping out, and the reason why I dropped out was a reason came along. I had one of my best mates, Oliver Brooks. He came along and he basically said, we're starting up a business. Do you want to join? And that was what caused me to sort of leave university in the first place. And I remember walking into the lecture theatre. I had my little withdrawal form. And I remember I need my lecturer to sign it. So I went into the lecture theatre as the lecture was going on. And the lecturer was like, hiya. I can't remember his name. It's called like Greg or something. I was like, Greg, mate. I've got a withdrawal form here, mate. I need you to sign it. I'm off. Sit a bit.
What did they think when you just said, yo?
They were like, are you sure? And like, to me, I'd sold myself well before this even happened. So it was like, they were like, are you sure this is what you want? I was like, yeah. Sign it, please. And I'm off.
So what are the paths if you would have finished the course? Like, what do you think would have happened if you stayed on the course? Where would you be right
I would
now?
have been leaning into my purpose, man. I would have been unfulfilled. I believe everything happens for a reason, and I believe the universe works in mysterious ways, and it's constantly pushing you. And I think that there's 2 ways to kind of view it. I think one way is I'd be probably like on oil rigs or something, looking for oil. Yeah, cool. You know, you can get some good jobs, 100 grand a year, whatever, but it's not purpose. And I think bigger than that. So that's kind of one aspect. But I do truly believe that the universe constantly points you in the right direction as long as you pay attention to it and you take action on that. So yeah, I believe the way I am, I would have always looped back around and come back on this path that we're on right now. Yeah.
Do you have any contacts with the people at uni? Like the
To be
friends that you
honest
used to
with
go
you,
with and party?
Like, I'm still mates with some of them. There's one lad I'm still good mates with. Some of them that I've not spoke to for like 2 years. Like, if I saw them, I'd be mates with them. Like, we're not falling out or anything. We're just different people. Like, they're very much in the matrix. Okay. Very like, there's no getting them out of the matrix. They're well and truly down the rabbit hole. And I'm like, well out of that. So we're not compatible as people. We think very differently. And, you know, talking about, obviously, listening to previous podcasts you're doing, like, you want to be very careful of who you give your energy to and who you're around. And I just want to get around people who think big, who do what they say they're going to do, who make big decisions, take risks, you know, are climbing that ladder, and they're on a mission, man.
What is the Matrix?
Oh, what a great question. So there's a million one ways that we can go down this rabbit hole. I believe that the whole of society is set up by the behind the scenes powers, the behind the scene government. The government's just puppets. They're just the front end of it, the show. There's deeper layers to all of that. And I believe that the whole of society is set up for control, to dumb us down, to every little aspect, to detail, the construct of the English language, to simple things like, you know, using knives and forks. When you use your fingers to eat food, there's a connection between you touching the food and your gut. You're supposed to digest it better. It's supposed to be better for you. You know, when you use knives and forks, you block that. You know, shoes that we wear, there's electrons that come from the earth.
Grounding.
Yeah, it's grounded. Like if you're into that kind of stuff, right? So when you wear shoes, it blocks that. Like every little detail is very, very, very cleverly set up to put us in a weakened state. I believe us as human beings, especially my learnings now with NLP and empowered intelligence, like we are so much capable of so much more. We're just so dumbed down from the food we eat, the air that we breathe, every little detail of it. And when you're in the Matrix, I believe that you're in this state of like, there's a million one ways to be in the Matrix, but you know, you're sat, you're watching the news, you're doing your 9 to 5. Nothing wrong with a 9 to 5, but are you in that slave mentality or you're in that free mentality?
Yeah, so like just like that, why do you think people stay stuck in that slave mentality?
They don't know anything better. They don't believe in themselves. They don't know anything better. They're doing the best they can with the resources and knowledge that they've got and the way that they're programmed. So anything out of that is so alien to them. One, they don't believe it. They're not thinking big enough. They don't think it's possible. And I guarantee you right now, the people who believe in that is based on what they consume, visually, what they watch, auditory, and their environment, the people they hang around. I guarantee you right now, someone who every day puts stuff in their minds, whether they're watching stuff, whether it's through what they listen to, and it's on a big high level, the environment they're around, the people they're getting around are on a high, playing a bigger game. I guarantee you right now, those people will start to think that way. Like the power of your environment is so unbelievably powerful on the way it programs you. It's another level. If I was to start all over again and I had to do one thing to start getting the ball rolling for success, there'd be 2 things I'd do. The one would be personal development, whether it's free or like a tenner, like a book, and then that escalates more to higher investments into yourself. And the second thing is I would just network like fuck and get around those people and be around those people consistently all the time.
So if you could, first, let me ask you, is there a way to escape the Matrix?
Of course there is. Anyone can escape the Matrix, but first step of escaping the Matrix is awareness.
Wow. I don't know if he's watched my reel, but
Continue.
Clip it.
Defo clipped.
Yeah.
So the first step is awareness.
So the first step is awareness. When you're aware of like, okay, this, you know, for example, let's flip back, COVID, right? All that stuff. Like this, everything's connected. You know, I don't know if you've seen recently the whole, where they're going to flag up alerts on your phone now of what's going on. With like, what is it? It's like an emergency warning type thing. Yeah. Like there's so many layers to this stuff and you won't be able to access your phone until you acknowledge it. There is a ways of turning it off though. If you go on your settings, go onto the notifications part, just flicker all the way down. You'll be able to see it on your phone. The 2 buttons at the bottom, flick them off.
Okay.
So when did these get added?
Great question. Yeah.
And what did they do precisely again, sorry?
So this is just one part of it, right? Of like sort of the agenda. Now, the end goal is total control. They want to take away bit by bit, freedom by freedom. You know, from every little detail, from everything. I could go on for hours and hours and hours down this rabbit hole. But yeah, the end goal is total and utter control.
Okay. Is there any other ways to escape the matrix? Because you said self-awareness.
Yeah, so awareness. The second one is take action. It's like, what are you educating yourself on? Like, the first step is health. Like, focus on the stuff you can control. Like, you can't control if they're going to try to put us in another lockdown or whatever. Like, these things on the agenda that I think are coming, and these things that are out of our control. Focus on the things that you can control. Number one is health. Like, the food that you buy from the supermarket, I guarantee you now, 99% of the stuff that's on the shelf isn't real food. It's industrially farmed. It's filled with pesticides. It's filled with herbicides. It's filled with shit. You know, go to a farm shop, eat organic food. You know, grow your own food, or find someone who does grow their own food. But the best place I'd say is farm shops. So step number one's health. And I'll be honest with you, this is an area that I'm focusing on now, and I want to step up massively in. And that's a big, big area. The second one is, as we've already said, is just focus on like what you're feeding yourself in terms of in your mind. You know, what you're listening to, what you're watching, who you're getting around. That has a major, major impact. And when you get around people with knowledge who are also aware of what's going on, like a lot of my learnings of what's going on in the world have actually been from the people I've hung around. Like, when you're on people from this sort of wavelength, it starts to have this snowball effect. Same with not just escaping the matrix, but creating wealth, living a better fulfilled life. A lot of the coaches I've invested in are getting around people who've either introduced me or, you know, through network marketing or whatever, and kind of gone down that sort of that route and networking. So everything's a snowball effect when you get around the right people.
So I just wanted to ask you, when did you have that paradigm paradigm? Is that what you call it?
The
The
biggest,
paradigm shift.
Yeah, the biggest thing that woke me up was lockdown. That led on to a snowball of effects, mainly people that I knew that kind of got me on that wavelength, and then they were passing information my way and sending me video links and all this, and I started watching, and then I started waking up. And I was a bit skeptical at first, but then when you start to see evidence of that in real life, and then you start to wake up, and then all these random events, you know, COVID, and then, you know, the war in Russia, and, you know, all the inflation and gas prices and all that, some like going off. They all seem like random events. But when you kind of have an understanding of what's going on, and you ask yourself, well, actually, is that pushing the end goal of utter total control? There's a thing called problem, action, solution. They create a problem, so they can take action on this fake problem. So the solution is what people believe is a solution for this problem that they've created, but actually the solution is to push the agenda of total control. And when you start to look at it and go problem, action, solution, the solution of that is that pushing towards this end goal of total control. You're like, you start to put the pieces, the dots together, and it's just been a snowball effect. And then getting around more people and more people and more people. You know, me and my business partner, Callum, we've lived with a good mate of ours out in Mallorca. He's got an Instagram account called The Conscious Pioneer.
Okay.
And he's got mental connections in this area. And it's just this snowball effect of really seeing what's going on. And here's the thing, right? Yes, you could go down this rabbit hole of like escaping the matrix and all this. A way I like to live my life now is you create your own reality. You create your own reality, you create your own world, and you just got to go all in with it. Create wealth ASAP.
So how has your environment changed since you've had this change in mindset? Because I could imagine a lot of people probably would have been left behind because they're still thinking the same old ways. And you're on about creating your reality. To them, they'll be like, what are you talking about?
I think, so here's the thing, right? If you sort of project your model of the world onto people, people who aren't ready for that yet, there'll be a clash. There'll be a resistance. They'll think you're an idiot. They'll think, what are you on about? You've got to bring people to a place of realization themselves. And it's, you know, you can take a horse to water. You can't make it drink it. So you've got to help people come to a place of realization themselves. Is the best way to do that. And, you know, I talk about this stuff a lot around sort of certain people. And, yeah, it's you know, it's not on us to wake them up. It's on them. It's them at the end of the day. It's their mind. It's their body. It's their life. You can only share that information. The rest is on them. Simple as that.
So tell me, how did you get into this NLP stuff? And explain what it is, because I've already forgot. It's
Neuro-linguistic programming, yeah. So there's that combined with something called empowered intelligence. And I suppose the way I got into it, bit of a mad story, actually. So I'll flip all the way back. Me and Callum, my business partner, we met through something called network marketing. So we're building like a travel business. It's basically a business you start under the umbrella of a bigger business. And then we went out to Dubai. So we were on a holiday out in Dubai, me, Callum, and our mate Sam. And I was bricklaying at the time. And when I was out there, my bricklaying gang fell apart. So in bricklaying, you obviously can't build a house on your own. So you work in gangs, right? So my bricklaying gang fell apart, which means I knew I was coming home to no job. I thought, shit. And obviously, out in Dubai, spunked all my money as you do. Blew it all. So I came home and spent all my money, had no job. Me and the girlfriend at the time, we were together 4.5 years. We lived together. We had a flat together in Manchester and we had a dog together. We ended up breaking up. So within a space of 2 weeks, I lost
4.5 years.
4.5 years, yeah, it's heavy, man. Best thing that ever happened to me, though. But yeah, I broke up with the girl. So I lost my girlfriend, I lost my dog, I lost my flat, I lost my job, and obviously spent all my money. So I was like, shit.
That's basically rock bottom.
Yeah, literally was like, fucking, that's everything. Bosh, all in one hit. So moved back home and I was just there. There's two options, right? You can either play the victim or you can use it as a crazy opportunity to grow. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to take the opportunity by the balls. You know, I believe everything happens for a reason. Callum actually got me into high ticket sales. So we were doing that, selling solar panels. And then, as he's mentioned on another podcast, we ended up going out to Mallorca, ticket selling. And but just before that happened, it's crazy. This whole concept of freedom lifestyle, which led me on to becoming an NLP and empowered intelligence coach. We had the same epiphany of that on the same weekend. He was at a business event, and I remember him calling me up saying, we need to start a coaching business. And I was in Wales. We had this like Airbnb. There's a few mates of me and a couple of mates from home. And I was on a heroic dose of magic mushrooms. Okay. So anyone who knows about magic mushrooms, I was on 5 grams, which is like a very, very high amount. And I remember lying there, like I was in like the fetus position like this. And I felt like I was back in the womb. That's how it felt. And it was like this entity or something talking to me and like communicating with me. And it was just, I don't know, it was just, I kept having this calling like, do NLP, do NLP, do NLP.
Is that what the entity was saying?
Like, it wasn't like saying it. I don't know how to describe it. It was just like a knowing. It was just like it was just like a feeling. Like I've just been drawn to it. I've known about NLP. I've done bits and bobs with it in the past. Nothing on the level it is to like I've done it today. And it was pushing me in that direction. And I knew a lad actually through network marketing, one of my previous companies. Very successful guy. He was a 7-figure income earner himself. I knew him through one of my old mentors called James Lavelle, who was a 7-figure income earner. And I knew he did NLP. So I remember after that, I just called him up and was like, I'm just looking at getting into NLP. And he just said, come down to my office. So he did. Went for everything. That then had a snowball effect of me having something called a breakthrough. I can get into that in a minute. And then I invested 5 grand into that, which then led me on to investing further another 20 grand into learning this skill myself. And it's a powerful, powerful, powerful skill.
Wow. Was it 20 grand for the year or
just to learn it basically? Went through
How quick did you go through it?
about 6 months, but it was intense. 2-3 hours studying myself a day, 2 calls a week with him, which were about 3-4 hours per call. Wow. About once a month I was down in the room with him for the full day. It was full on, very full on. So yeah.
All right, then if you could give us a tiny insight, what were some of the questions you would ask us if we was to become a client of yours?
Well, what's your problem?
All right. Hypothetically speaking.
Yeah, hypothetically.
Hypothetically. I believe I'm all right.
Yeah, go for it.
Let's say I had some family issues with my mother or father.
Okay. So what is the problem?
So let's say the problem was I would like to see my dad more, or I didn't live with my dad.
Yeah. So how is that a problem?
Let's say I would like to see my dad more. I see everybody else with their dad.
I hear you. And like, how is that a problem?
How's that problem? It would be a problem. I guess I can't really do it because it's hypothetical, is it?
I know it is, and if it wasn't, how would it be a problem?
You want me to do my...
Do a real one.
I'll do a real one.
Go on then.
I need help. I'm broke.
Okay. How, so is that a problem?
Yeah, that's a huge problem for me.
How is that a problem?
I feel like I can't live the life I want to live without the amount of money.
What will happen if you don't resolve that problem?
I probably won't live a fulfilled life. I would probably be very sad, and I'd probably regret everything that I've done.
So how long have you had this problem?
How long have I had it? Since I was born.
Since you were born?
Since I was born.
And what do you want instead of the problem?
Wealth and abundance.
Yeah. What else?
Happiness.
Yeah.
Time.
Yeah.
Time, freedom.
Yeah. And what have you tried in the past to fix this problem and hasn't worked?
What have I tried? I have tried to, well, I'm still trying. I haven't given up. Tried to run my own business. That way I can take the risk, but also make most of the profit instead of being an employee and being paid hourly.
So what went wrong with that to carry on the problem?
What went wrong? I would say possibly scaling issues, hiring staff issues, and finding clientele issues.
Like what specifically was the issues in that?
Possibly the outreach to
Yeah.
finding the clientele and having them pay me the amount that I want
Right. Okay.
because I have a money problem.
So so again, flipping back to the
Yeah.
money. So the money problem's then further creating the money problem, right?
Yeah.
Now here's the thing: people think they've got a problem in business. They don't have a problem in business. They've got a personal problem that's showing up in the business.
Okay.
So a lot of us, we turn to the external world. We want to learn skills. We want to learn abilities. All that's great. It's essential. We've got to learn it. The big thing that we're missing, part of the puzzle, is what's actually going on inside. You know, we always focus on we've got to do more, we've got to work smarter, we've got to work harder, we've got to do all this stuff. Well, actually, rather than doing that, let's also focus on being more. You know, if you want to make, if it's cloudy outside and we want to make the sun brighter, we don't have to turn up the brightness of the sun. We just got to move the clouds out of the way. You know, everybody has what we call weeds in the garden. We walk around this earth for the first 7 years of our life without a conscious mind. It's the conscious mind that gives you the ability to either accept or reject information. Now, the prime directive of the mind, the number one priority over anything, is to keep you alive as long as possible on this planet. So the reason why we don't have a conscious mind for the first 7 years is we want to learn stuff like a sponge as quickly as possible. So our kids can learn stuff so easily, so we can survive in the world. The brain's not perfect, makes mistakes. So a downside of that is we take on a lot of negative programming too. Like there's so many ways that can happen. You know, you're crying as a kid, as kids do, and your parents say, stop crying, or you can't do that, and start shouting at you. Kids always ask why. Now, they may ask that in the head or they may ask that out loud. If no one's there to answer that question for them, they answer it themselves. Or why can't I cry? Good kids don't cry. I'm a bad person. Bang! Create a belief at a very young age, at a very deep level. Have you ever seen the film Inception?
I didn't finish
Why
it.
do I feel like I know the name? And I know
It's
the
a belter film. I'd recommend watching it. But what happens is this then we grow up holding this belief that we create at a young age at a deep unconscious level. We then form a conscious mind, growing to an adult. The conscious mind actually doesn't finish forming until you're around your mid-20s. So you boys, how old are you now?
22.
22.
Just turned 22.
So you're still there. It's not even fully formed yet. For us, it's just about finishing. We're 25 now. And you grow up, and this belief that you form can manifest in every area of your life. It's like having weeds in the garden. Now, what people do is they try and go out and with your hedge cutters, and they try and cut every single weed in the entire garden. That's a very hard thing to do.
Yeah.
And even if they did manage to do it, the root's still there. So the weeds keep growing back. Or even worse, people, rather than cutting the weeds, they try to flatten the weeds, try to flatten it down to get rid of the weeds through coping mechanisms. You know, there's a million and one ways that we can do coping mechanisms. Some people it's alcohol, some people it's drugs, some people it's meditation, some people it's exercise, some people it's traveling, some people it's sales, some people it's going out and having sex with lots of women. You know, there's a million and one ways. Now, there's not necessarily anything wrong with doing these things, but what's the purpose behind doing it? Are you doing it because you just want to do it, or are you doing it because it's a coping mechanism from all the shit that you're holding on to? So what a better technique is to do is to, rather than flatten and cut the weeds, we want to find the root. When we find the root, if you pull up the root, all the weeds in the garden disappear.
So how would you do that?
Well, I can't say. I've had to sign stuff. So, yeah, there's many techniques and stuff that we do that. Then the next, so the step number 3. So the first step is to find the root. The second step is to eliminate the root. When you eliminate the root, all the weeds in the garden disappear. Step number 3 is you then plant the new seed. When you plant the new seed, this time around, it's going to grow into a beautiful garden. You're going to have the oak tree, you're going to have the bluebells, you're going to have the daffodils, you're going to have the beautiful grass. And we completely rewire your neurological structure to set you up for more external success and more internal peace and fulfillment. Now, an analogy I like to use is the captain and the ship. So you've got the captain, which is the conscious mind. And the captain wants to go in this direction to point B. And you've got the unconscious mind, which is like the crew. And the crew wants to go to point C. Now, people are constantly just in this battle, like trying to get to point B. And it's just constant grind. It's like they're constantly on the wheel of the boat, like pulling it back over this way. And it's keep wanting to go back over to point C. And then it's like this constant graft and grind. And as soon as they take the eye off the ball, the foot off the pedal, even worse, they're getting constant burnout. Bang, they're back over here, because that's how they're programmed, right? So, and it's just constant physical pull. Like, how much energy is that going to take? It takes a lot of energy. What a better thing to do is to completely rewire your neurological structure so they want to go in the same direction. It's like, before you do that, it's like the captain's constantly radioing down to the engine room, the crew in the engine room, going, hey, we're going over to point B, and they're just not listening. So when you rewire it, and the crew want to go in the same direction to point B as the captain, the conscious mind, rather than feeling like it's swimming upstream all the time, it's just constant graft and grind, everything just seems hard, you now feel like you're swimming downstream. Everything just feels effortless. It just seems to happen, and it's just this flow. That, combined with skills and abilities, can take you to levels like you wouldn't even believe.
You do this for other people, I assume.
Yeah.
What's one of the best testimonials that you've received?
It's got to be this man right here. Mr. Callum Webber.
And what was it? What was it like? If you could tell us briefly. Like, what was his experience like, first of all?
Mr. Webber, I've got to leave that one with you, mate.
What was your experience when he coached you in this NLP?
It was incredible. He took me to like death. Like, he took me to like when my family would die, and it completely changed my perspective of how I view the world, how I view the present, being in the present. Something I struggled with was I'm always thinking in the future and not always in the present. So that really gave me clarity. And he also took me back to called timeline therapy. And you go back in time to like when you have like trauma. And I realized that I actually had trauma from being in the womb. Like, my mum was 16 when she had me. My dad was 18. And I went back to when I was in the womb by 1 month. And I realized I entered the world with a chip on my shoulder. I entered the world with trauma. So I was doomed from the start of birth to have trauma, insecurities that were going to hold me back. And I basically didn't feel loved, which was showing up in many areas of my life.
I want to actually ask you this question now.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing you've done this experience too.
Like, had it done to me?
Yeah. So, like, what were some of the things that you noticed? Are you allowed to say?
Yeah. Exactly.
What was something that you noticed? Some of the roots that you had stuck, that you had to then fix and then reconstruct.
Getting down to it, a belief I was carrying around from a very, very young age was I felt like a little bitch. Right? And there's a million and one ways for that to manifest, right? So there was
Would you say you felt that unconsciously, like
very deep unconscious level?
Back there, like, you had to feel like a little.
Yeah, like consciously, I was like, what?
Nah, I'm that guy.
Yeah, like, well, that doesn't make sense. But deep rooted, like that's a belief I had. And there's a study done where there was these two brothers, and the parents were alcoholics, were drug addicts, and these two brothers then grew up and they got interviewed. Now, one of them ended up on death row. And when he got interviewed, they were like, what is it that, what made you happen to make you to end up here? And he said, well, my parents were alcoholics and drug abusers. So what do you expect? Now, the other brother went out there and built a multi-million-pound business. He built a multi-million-pound business. He had the beautiful wife. He had the beautiful kids. He was living the dream, the beautiful house. And when they interviewed him, said, like, what was it that made you sort of create this life? He was like, well, my parents were drug addicts and alcoholics. What do you expect? Now, they will have formed a very similar beliefs. So, for example, just chucking an example out there, a very common one is, I don't feel worthy. Now, how's that going to show up? So there's two ways. One is you're not going to take action on anything and not achieve anything in your life because you don't feel worthy. The other one is you go out, you build a multi-million-pound business, you do all these things, but the external world doesn't change the internal world. So they're going to go out there and they're going to create this multi-million-pound business and they're still not going to feel worthy. Now, that's an even worse place to be because at least at the other end of the spectrum, you've got hope. You're like, well, when I do get all this stuff, it's like, I'm going to feel good. Now, this is why I get a lot of deaths in celebrities and stuff like that. When you're at this end of the spectrum, and it's like, well, I've got the Lamborghinis, I've got, you know, the houses, you know, I've had the girls, I've got the kids, like, whatever. It's like, what now? They still feel like shit, and this is like a bad place to be. And sometimes you don't notice the handbrake is on the car until the car starts moving. And the faster that car's moving, the more you notice it. If it's stationary, you don't notice the handbrake's on. When it's on the motorway doing 70 miles an hour, shaking like a shitted dog, you know it's handbrake's on. So, flipping back to your question, one for me was I felt like a little bitch. These are the reasons why I got into MMA, I got into jiu-jitsu, I got into business, I got into sales.
So what was the reason you felt like a little bitch?
I don't know. It's a belief that I created at a very, very young age.
Is there any external factors?
There will have been something, there would have been a moment that happened in time where in that instant that happened, bang, I would have created that belief at a very young age.
Do you think you can identify them as of now?
Oh, that belief's gone. Hands down.
But do you believe, have you identified the external factors that made you have that belief?
No. So here's the thing, right? The unconscious works in mysterious ways. It doesn't work like the unconscious knows everything. It tracks everything from the minute you were conceived. However, it works in feelings, it works with colours, it works with pictures, it works with sounds. It doesn't work logically. We try to think logically with our minds. You know, coming back to that place, I don't know what, it was just a feeling that came up. It was just like, I wanted to say it. It's because your unconscious mind always knows it was a feeling, but logically, it doesn't make any sense. So I just knew I had that belief. It came up. Logically, I don't know why, I don't know how, I don't know the external environments. I just know at some point early on in life, I created that belief and that then manifested into all areas of my life. I used to have validation with women. Like I was like, I need to keep like shagging all these girls and stuff to have this validation or have a missus or whatever. And all these different things. Now, I do a lot of the stuff that I used to do, but it's from a different space now. It's not from I'm a little bitch, because that root has been pulled up and the new root's been planted of I feel strong, I feel empowered. Now that is manifested in all different ways. Now when you operate from that space, it's a whole different place to operate from. Now here's the thing. The second thing of the mind after survival is it wants to move you away from pain or move you towards pleasure. And even when you get pleasure, it's like, oh, how can I keep it? So you're either moving away from stuff, which a lot of people are, or you are moving towards something. There's a massive difference between moving away from being broke and moving towards creating wealth. When you move away from something, it's directionless. You know, if you go to Birmingham Airport and you're like, I just want to get out of Birmingham, where the fuck are you going? Where the fuck are you going? And when you get out of Birmingham, is the motivation still there to get out of Birmingham, or is the motivation gone?
Yeah.
It goes, right? Rather than doing that, if you're in Birmingham and you go, I want to go to Thailand, then you've got direction in where you're going. It's got intention. Now, with that was an analogy, but when it's moved towards, there's this constant momentum that you're experiencing. If you're moving away from being broke, when you get a bit of money behind you, it's like a yo-yo pattern. You lose your motivation. You're like, yeah, whatever. You stop doing the things that got you the money. You then go back down. Then, oh, shit, I've got no money. Spent all my money. Motivation kicks back in, goes back up. And it's a constant yo-yo, this pattern that we see. This applies to anything in life. And it's stressful on the body. When you move towards something, it's this constant direction of moving towards something. And it's easier on the body. It feels like you're swimming downstream, not against the current.
What's one trauma that a lot of people have, and you've seen it's a regular reoccurrence that a lot of people have?
Cool, great question. So a lot of this is obviously I've practiced a lot of stuff on people. I've obviously read into it. I've been coached massively on it. There's so many different root causes to things. I would say the most common ones are I'm not worthy or something around that. I'm a bad person. I don't feel loved. You know, there's a million one sort of beliefs that you can create yourself that don't serve you at a very deep unconscious level. It's like, imagine walking around for 7 years with no armor. Everything you got told was truth. At 3 years old, if I said to you, the sky's green, you'd take it on as truth. Now as a full-grown adult, you know, that's bullshit, you know, because it's blue, isn't it?
Yeah.
So we're taking everything on as truth. And yeah, it's we've got no armor up. Everybody, every human being on planet Earth, unless you've done like a breakthrough or something similar, you're carrying shit. It's impossible to get away from it.
I believe that. I've heard some story about like the Play-Doh effect. Like imagine being a fresh piece of dough and you go through life, you go through family, relationships, experiences, and then all that dough gets molded into so many things, and it's up to you which one pieces you want to take off, which pieces you want to fix. So that is a great analogy of the story.
Yeah.
I want to know, is it possible to, it's possible to program a child, but is it possible to program it in a way that you want it to
Of course
become?
it is. Yeah.
That sounds like manipulation almost.
Yeah, in a positive way, but yeah, I suppose
in
it
a
is.
positive
Yeah.
way.
Like,
Because it's not like
the-
I'm going to condemn my child and
Hey.
manipulate them until they're just
You know,
worthless.
someone might listen and think, yo, how do I
Here's the thing, right? You can do a lot, but you can only do the best you can. That kid is not going to be with you every second of the day.
Yeah.
You could be next to someone who says something, bang,
Pixel.
that you're out of that control. That kid's at school. The teacher says something to him, bang, they've created a belief. So you can do a lot, but you can't get away from it. You just can't. Like, unless you're with that kid every moment of every second and there's no one else around that's going to say something or an external circumstances happen, like it's impossible. But you can only do the best you can by installing empowering beliefs to your child when you are with them.
Okay, so great. So to mothers and fathers who have kids right now, who maybe listen to this and think, yo, I want to get a kid, I want to raise the best. What advice would you recommend to them?
Tell
to
him,
give to
like,
their child on a regular basis. 'Cause I've got a little brother.
Yeah.
And I always tell him when I see him, you're a king, just to make him
Great.
know,
Yeah.
you are that guy, bro.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
get what I'm saying? And like, I remember one time I said to him, he wanted to learn to play chess. And I was like, big man, you're not ready to play chess. And then he just sat back and he went, and my mom walked past and said to me, you don't know that. If you tell him, yeah, he will be ready to play chess. And then that's when I kind of noticed, yo, you're a king every time I see you, bro. So like,
Love that.
what piece of advice would you give?
Well, that's one of them. Install empowering beliefs into them at a young age. There's a few things. One of them is we're never taught how to deal with emotions, right? So if we, there's a whole rabbit hole I could go down with this. Some stuff I can't say because I've had to sign intellectual property.
Yeah.
But what I can say is we're never taught to express our emotions. In fact, we're taught and programmed to do the opposite. Baby's crying, what do the parents normally say? Stop crying. Don't they?
Yeah.
So if we make that belief that we aren't allowed to cry, then rather than leaning into that emotion, experiencing it and let it pass through us, which is what emotions are designed for, the purpose of emotion is to send a message.
Mm-hmm.
So when we understand that, every emotion we get, if we're like, well, what's this message bringing to me? When you acknowledge the message, what happens to the emotion? Served its purpose, it disappears.
Yeah.
If we don't do that and we believe that we can't express our emotions unconsciously because we're programmed into us at a young age, we then suppress it or reject it. So we then hold that as unresolved emotions. And that can, for example, there's a million one ways that can happen. Road rage. You're an adult, you're driving along, someone cuts in front of you. Yeah, you might be like, oh, dickhead. Or some people are like, you fucking dickhead, all this sort of stuff.
Go crazy on it.
Yeah, it's because that one
more of the
little
first
small incident that would create a small amount of anger has brought up all that unresolved anger that's coming out. It's the same with anything.
It's giving me Chin Paradox vibes.
Yeah, it's similar kind of stuff. Yeah,
You know what?
it's-
That
yeah.
is some serious
Yeah.
facts.
Have you
Yeah.
read the Chin Paradox, bro?
I haven't read it.
See, the Chin Paradox talks about it. It's like just reacting to
Class book.
situations. Like, was it the frontal? You got the frontal cortex, and he talks
Yeah,
about
yeah. It's been a while since I've read it. But
Basically saying like, yo, there's a part of your brain which is just emotionless and just reacts.
yeah.
So like that's where, let's say
It's-
if I slapped you, you think first react reaction, but I'm gonna knock him out. But like, you haven't, before you thought, yo, why did he slap me? You've already reacted. And the chimp said, and like, I think, I don't know what the bit that's controlling it is. The human, basically say the human part of the brain is saying, yo, why did he slap? Basically think before.
Yeah.
You know what? That's because with the driving example, I'm always driving, and like you or my girl will just be like, "Why don't you beep your horn? That guy is like, why did he do that?" And I'm just like,
just chilled.
It is what it is, bro. Didn't crash. We're good.
Just chilled.
Keep
Yeah.
going.
Yeah.
To be honest, there's been a few times.
Yeah.
There's been a few times.
Well, yeah. To answer your question, then, you know, if your kid's crying, don't tell it not to cry.
Yeah.
Just be there for them, like, just like, yeah, it's all right. And just allow them to express their emotions. What people try and do, imagine you sat on the side of a lake and a rock falls in, quakes alert, splash, quakes alert, ripples. People try to get in the lake, try to flatten out the ripples. Well, what happens when you do that? You create more ripples.
Yeah.
A better thing to do is to sit there, be like, no judgment, just be like, it's ripples, cool. And just, the ripples will just fizzle out. Simple as that. Install empowering beliefs into them as much as you can. I'd educate them around this sort of stuff, teach them how to deal with emotions, teach them that it's okay to express emotions. In fact, rather than not crying, I want you to cry your eyes out. Because if you cry your eyes out and imagine you ramp up the dial and like really lean into it and experience it, that emotion is just going to pass through you and it's going to be gone. It's cool. Like we live in this world where it's like, oh, I want to be happy, I want to be happy, I want to be happy. Well, that's not being a human being. You can't be happy all the time. Yeah. You're happy all the time and your mum dies. Is that like, that's fucked up. Yeah. It's fucked up. Like, we're human beings. We go through these range of emotions from happiness to sadness to anger to frustration to euphoric to fulfillment to, you know, whatever. Yeah, you just ride those emotions. Every emotion you experience, good, bad, serves you, doesn't serve you, whatever. Lean into it. Embrace it and let it pass through you and experience life at its most richest form rather than suppressing it, because that's when problems happen, is when you try and suppress it. So that's what I'd say. Another one as well is human beings don't process negatives. So now you tell your kid not what to do, only what to do. If I said to you, don't think of a blue tree.
Already thought of it.
Blue tree, bang, don't you? So let's say I didn't actually want you to think of a blue tree. Another thing I say is think about me holding this water bottle. So, you know, your kids fucking drawing on the walls. Don't say, don't draw on the walls. Say, put the pen down and draw on the piece of paper.
Okay.
Okay, so we spoke a lot about controlling emotions. Obviously, how would you reprogram somebody to control their emotions, or what would you say to someone in the more older adolescence? So like the more older age, our age is now. I could imagine as you grow up and as you reach a certain age, you're pretty much you've already got your beliefs. You already know how you're going to react to situations. So how would you direct somebody to change their emotions and actually be able to control and understand?
Well, here's the thing. They only know at a surface conscious level. They don't know the deeper structure of that. So step number one would be to get rid of the unresolved emotions, to let go of those emotions. Because when you let go of all unresolved emotions, things don't trigger you. A lot of things, you know, something will trigger someone and it'll bring up all the unresolved emotions. So that's when it starts creating problems in their life. So first one is get rid.
How do you do that?
Through a breakthrough.
I was going to say, so like, besides the breakthrough, would you say something like acceptance or to meditate?
It's like awareness can have power in itself, bringing awareness to it. It doesn't necessarily fix problems. Sometimes it can. But what are you aware of? Like, it's not just unresolved emotions, it's unresolved limiting decisions, it's unresolved limiting beliefs you've got going on. Like, these ways and means to get down to the depths of that. You know, I'm massive on like psychedelics. Psychedelics can bring awareness to stuff that's in there. Doesn't always get rid of it, or sometimes it's not at the deepest roots if you want it to be. It can be a bit chaotic when you're on psychedelics. So through certain processes, we can take them and guide them. What
psychedelics?
LSD, mushrooms. That's it, actually. I really want to do ayahuasca, DMT. I do want to try them.
What's the ayahuasca one? Is that?
It's a great question. So it's like two plants that they boil together.
It's meant to be like a therapy in a way.
Kind of, yeah. Well, it depends on like what's the intention behind.
Have you ever took any of them for like therapy, so like spiritual reasons or anything?
Yeah, I've been to magic mushroom retreats and stuff. And looking back now, this is prior to my breakthrough.
Okay, so does that like Was that to help understand your trauma?
Yeah, it was after me breakup. So I was like, obviously going through the breakup, you're holding on to shit like you do. So I went, it was like you take magic mushrooms, you're doing all these breathing exercises, you're meant to release a lot of trauma. It does release trauma, but it don't get rid of the trauma. So it's a coping mechanism. So at the time, I didn't realize it. It was a coping mechanism. And I felt great. But then, 2 weeks after, 3 weeks after, you go back to your old ways. It's not. You've not pulled the root out. You've just cut the weeds, and the weeds can grow back.
I always wanted to ask. We spoke about children and the programming, but what age does it actually start?
We've always been programmed to the day you die. The minute you're born, the day you die. In the first 7 years of life, so what we call the imprint period, is when you've got no defense. So the rate of programming is like through the roof. And even after that, your conscious mind isn't fully formed to your mid-20s, so you're still getting massively programmed until you're about, until your mid-20s. Even after that, we're always, all day, every day, constantly being programmed. The difference is now, we have the ability to accept or reject it. However, we can only accept or reject things if we're aware of it.
Yeah.
So like flipping back to what we were saying before about the Matrix and stuff, like we're getting programmed like fuck when you watch films on Netflix and you're watching the news and stuff, like there's subtle things embedded in there. There's many techniques, and I see exactly what they do now, where they'll distract your conscious mind with a story. And like, you're like, oh yeah, it's a great story. But embedded in what you're watching is lots of symbols and meanings and metaphors and all these different things that your unconscious mind picks up. So they distract your conscious mind, and then they embed in all this programming into your unconscious mind.
So obviously we live in a world now, which I don't know if does anyone know Dan Coe?
Yeah.
Dan who?
Dan Coe. He's like
It rings a bell. I don't know who he is.
And he does the videos like the moving particles and everything.
Yeah.
Dan Coe. So a lot of the things he speaks about, which is worldwide and everybody knows, is digital distractions.
Right.
So distractions are not only, it's more digital. So like you got the social media, TikTok, the TVs, obviously the phones and everything. So how is it? So you're talking about like the mind and everything. How is it you avoid digital distractions? Because every piece of programming in real life and right now is pretty much done on via digital.
Yeah, a lot of it is a big, like you think about it now, that there's so many methods to get programmed now compared to 10 years ago.
Facts.
So the rate of programming, especially kids, fuck me. Like, it's fucked.
Deep it.
With the iPad.
We probably had a different lifestyle. 10 years ago, I remember 10 years ago, I was outside.
Yeah, playing out.
My brother.
Yeah.
I don't even know if he goes outside.
Yeah.
iPad, Netflix, all of that.
Everything.
Yeah.
So how is it you avoided digital?
So, again, awareness is key. It's awareness, like being able to clock stuff. Like, oh, trying to program me there. Like, when you're aware of it, your conscious mind kicks in, and then it has the ability to accept it or reject it. When you're not aware of it and your conscious mind is distracted, your unconscious is getting programmed. So first step is awareness. Also, like, what are you doing on social media? Like, are you using it intentionally? Are you using it, or is it using you? Like, are you there rubbing your knob, looking at birds on Instagram all the time? Like I used to do it. Like, looking at shit. Or are you there using it to build your business, or, build an audience for whatever reason, to monetize it? So it's being intentional with that. Again, even with awareness with everything, you can't be perfect. There will be stuff that gets past and do it. In an ideal world, the best method would be to fuck your phone off, to fuck all TV off, to fuck everything off, and be in the present. Yeah, go monk mode. However, in the world we live, that's not always possible. People got businesses to run or whatever, So with that being said, you can only do the best you can with the resources that you've got.
I want to talk about your breakthrough.
Yeah.
What is a breakthrough? And you said you've experienced one.
Yeah, great question. So I suppose it's flipping back to what I've said, really. Completely rewiring the neurological structure for more external success and more internal peace. It helps get your crew going from point C to wanting to go to point B with your captain. So it feels like you're swimming downstream. There's 3 parts to a breakthrough in the briefest nutshell. It's 2 days, intense in the room with me from in the morning till late at night.
2 days like that?
Yeah.
And how many hours?
We started at like 11, didn't we? Took like an hour for lunch. Yeah, it's
Oh,
full
so
on.
it's just like the whole day, yo, we're getting this sorted
Straight
now.
through, yeah. So day one,
I like the efficiency.
yeah, well, day one is find the route and then pull up the route. You don't want to be like, you don't want to find someone's route and then be like, see ya. Pulling up all that shit and trauma. And then you're like, see the bit. You don't want to do that.
So it's like, yo, you come today, we're getting it sorted.
Yeah. Like you pull it up and then as soon as you get it up, bang, nib it in the head. Fucking pull that fucker out.
I love it, Jake. I love it.
Day two's planting the new route, so it's all the future-based stuff, reprogramming you for more external success and more internal peace and freedom, and program you for your empowered self moving forward.
So, between day 1 and 2, did Callum have any trouble sleeping? Or did you replace the route the same day that you found it?
Oh, so I eliminated the route day 1.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Day 1, I completely eliminated it. But yeah, how did you sleep, Callum?
The first night,
Yeah.
we only had a few hours sleep because we got up at like 2, didn't we? And then the second night, we were flying, like high off life. We had an edible as well.
That's classic.
Yeah, it was like, if you ever seen The Matrix, it was like I took the red pill and I entered a new world, and it was like game on. And then we only had 4 hours sleep, went wild camping, and I was like, I had all the energy in the world. So,
All right, and so since you've done this as well, how has your life been since doing it?
Do you know what? So doing Callum's breakthrough was actually a big reminder for me because, like, so for example, what's your problem with it? Like, what's your emotion to this bottle right now?
Survival. Need water to drink.
It's just water.
All right, maybe that's a bad example. What's your this wallet? This wallet. What's your emotion to this wallet right now?
Money, wealth, I don't know.
Have you got any emotional attachment?
Nah, no emotional attachment.
Just the wallet. Just the wallet.
Not even mine.
Not mine, yeah. That's what I'm saying. There's no emotional attachment.
So, what your problems? Something that used to be a massive problem for you in your life that you just was doing all the time is now how you feel about this wallet. So it's a bit of a mad one. Sometimes you forget like how far you've come, and it was crazy. Like watching Callum go through the process, it was a big reminder for me of how I used to be, and I was like, oh shit, yeah, I had all these problems, and it's like you're just in this space now of just like I feel like I'm on a pill every day. Like I'm just high on life. It just feel great, and I suppose one of 3 things can happen. You either carry on doing the stuff you were doing before for a different reason. It's not a coping mechanism. It's just you just want to do it. You either stop doing the things that you did, certain things, because it was a coping mechanism and there's no purpose doing it anymore, or you start doing new things. But the level I operate on now, the way I think, the way I show up in the world, the way I feel, is because my breakthrough was about a year ago now, is completely different to the way I used to be prior to that. Completely different. Things just, it's a place of coming of, are you capable?
Yeah.
Like, are you capable of handling with whatever presents itself to you? Like, I generally come from a place now, let's say my mum died. Yes, I'd be very upset. It's appropriate to be upset. But I'll be all right. And I know I'd be all right. I could go bankrupt. And yeah, I'd be like, oh shit, that's... Ooh. But I'd be all right. And life's a dance. And it's just like, just go with the dance.
Go with it.
And it's like, rather than reacting, yeah, clip it. Yeah, just go with the dance. And like, rather than be like, oh shit, like you're not capable, you're suppressing shit, and you're thinking, oh fuck, and your head's falling off, and this and that. Like, yeah, it's appropriate to experience whatever emotion you're experiencing from that event. But behind that, are you capable of handling it? Can you dance with it?
Okay.
That's true power. That's where true power lies.
What were some of the coping mechanisms that you had and then you just became aware of and you was like, no, they gotta go?
Not necessarily that they had to go. Some of them did.
Or maybe deal with it differently.
Yeah, it was just like, so I felt like a little bitch, right? That was
Yeah.
that was my root cause belief. I'm massive into jiu-jitsu. I'm massive into MMA. That was a coping mechanism.
Are you graded?
I have got blue belt in two shots of me blue belt in jiu-jitsu. So yeah, it's cool.
Had a fight yet? Amateur fight or?
To be honest, I've not really trained properly for the last couple of years. When I was a kid, I smashed it 6 days a week. I'll be honest with you, a lot of my ones, I still do the same things just for a different reason. Like a big one for me was a coping mechanism was shagging around, like just shagging loads of girls. And it was like I needed this validation from women. The reason why I needed the validation because I felt like a little bitch. I'm talking to someone now, so it's not the case. But prior to that, after my breakthrough, I was just shagging about a little bit, and it was just fancied a shag. Like, there was no deeper stuff behind it. It was just, she's fit. I just want to shag her. As simple as that. Like business, for example, sales. It was just coping mechanisms for me.
Why would you say they were coping mechanisms?
It was a way of masking of me feeling like a little bitch. Going out there making a sale, I was like, yeah, I'm the man. I'm this. I'm that.
But wouldn't that give you a sense of fulfillment?
Again, there's nothing wrong with what you're doing. It's the intention behind it. Now it does.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
Now the way it used to be, that sense of fulfillment I got from the sale was my way of putting a plaster on the belief I had of feeling like a little bitch. It was a coping mechanism. Now it's like, just want to close the deal because I feel sick. It's like, it's where you operate from with that. So yeah.
I wanted to ask you, do you take any supplements?
I don't, I've got a protein shake that I have, like just that I ordered. I should start taking supplements though.
Which ones would you take?
What, protein shakes or like
just supplements?
Oh, throughout my life, I've tried loads. I've had like nutritional drinks and stuff. When I was in network marketing, I was in like some health companies. So there was like one called Ajene, a bit like Herbalife, another called Arix, which was similar. So they had like all these nutritional shakes and bits and bobs and stuff. So I've had a lot of them. I've done the whole vitamins and stuff. So I've fallen off with, to be honest with you. And the reason being is when you start to look into a lot of it, they're not as good for you as you think. There are a lot of good ones out there. It's just knowing which ones. And an area that I'm actually want to work on now in my life is health. It's a place I want to educate myself more on, so I do know what is the right stuff to put in my body, because there's so many layers to this stuff. It's very depth. Like a good friend of ours called Charlie, he said something to me over the weekend, really hit me hard. A big mistake we made thousands of years ago is when we chose to switch to farming. Now we've gone from foraging to farming. Farming's backbreaking work. And it was like for thousands of years, we're plowing the fields, we're doing all this sort of stuff. Like, it's really backbreaking work. And then that structure of the graft, the grind, is then followed on into modern day society of jobs and all this sort of stuff. Who's happier? The person who is doing all that, or the person who is roaming free, just picking fresh fruit from the trees and free as a bird, doing what he wants, completely free? Who's happier? Now, when we were foragers, your parents would pass on the knowledge of foraging. This is the right mushrooms to eat. These are the right fruits to pick. Don't eat these berries. The whole complex of knowledge. And, especially in the UK, there was more forests. We've cut down all the forests now. So that based on that, there was loads more going on.
Yeah.
And then what happened? We started farming. We're cutting down the trees. We're doing all this sort of stuff. The knowledge of farming was then passed on, and the knowledge of foraging was then slowed down to the point where we forgot all this knowledge and information that we used to have of foraging, and we only know how to farm now. And I believe that was a big mistake that we made.
Definitely.
Massive. The society now, if we had stick to foraging rather than farming, the whole structure of society right now would be completely different to the way we see it today.
So you spoke about awareness, but I want to understand, at what point in your life did you become aware?
Aware of what?
Aware of, let's say, problems you had.
What, in terms of from like an NLP point of view?
In terms of any point of view, because like I said, okay, let's say for personal growth, because maybe it's something that was stopping you from becoming the person you want to be. At what point did you think, wow, this is actually stopping me from what I want to do and who I want to be?
Great question. I think there was blockages. I don't think there was anything.
But you had to become aware of them blockages.
Yeah, definitely.
So at what point did you become aware?
I think the massive one for me was my breakthrough. Massively, because that was like bringing everything to the surface.
How long ago was that?
about a year ago now.
So only
Yeah.
a year you feel like you're living up to
Yeah.
the full potential.
However, prior to that, there was momentum in life. You know, we were doing things, not at the level we are now, but there was things. Now, here's the thing. You can, even if you're not aware, you can still create success. People who haven't had a breakthrough, there's loads of people who've gone out there and built multi-million-pound businesses. However, what is the deeper structure to that? You don't necessarily notice the handbrake's on until the car's at full throttle. So, I think I was aware of bits and bobs. I knew about NLP. I knew sort of stuff behind this, but not to the level I know it now. It's all sort of, I wouldn't say there was one pivotal moment other than the breakthrough, because prior to that, there was moments where you have a realization, you have a realization, then you have a realization, you have a realization, and it's all of that compounding through time to get to where we are now.
I just wanted to ask you, just before I move on to my personal last question.
Yeah, go for it.
I just want you to tell me more about like your mushroom retreats.
Oh yeah, so Matt. So obviously we went to the one in Kent. That was prior to my breakthrough, and then the one after my breakthrough was out in Ibiza. Again, whole different reason. Just wanted to go because it's a cool thing to do. But it's at a place called Crystal Mountain out in the mountains. Mad little place, like big fuck off crystals and stuff everywhere. Proper hippie place. And we get there and we start practicing. We're all sober. We're going in this pool and stuff, and we're doing all this breath work. But you get some like mad hippie women there. Some fit birds there. Well, I thought they were fit. And then they start getting like the tits out and stuff, and I'm like, "Whoa, this is gonna get fruity. This proper mad." Anyways, and then you're in the pool doing the thing, and then as they're getting out, getting changed, they're lifting their arms up, and I was like, it's like they've got armpit hair. I was like, fucking hell. Anyways, so there was only like 2 of them. It was like that, and then so we started taking these magic mushrooms, and we're all doing these breathing exercises, passing around a load of joints and that, and then it just went to, it's mad. Like, I don't know how to describe it. Your mind goes to places. You realize there's so much more than there actually is. Have you boys ever done magic mushrooms?
No.
But my auntie was telling me to go for like some magic mushrooms, like a spiritual cleansing or something.
It's like it peels away the layers of the self-awareness.
See, I always thought it does that, like it helps you identify parts of your trauma or anything, but I didn't ever think it actually heals it.
It can. It wouldn't say it gets rid of the root. Definitely doesn't. Just awareness in certain things though can have massive impacts. The actual experience from a psychedelic trip to what you experience in a breakthrough, and bearing in mind you're sober in a breakthrough, well, you can be sober. A very sort of similar kind of experiences. Just one's guided; it takes you right down to the bottom of the depths. The other one is a bit messy, a bit chaotic. There's no sort of guidance with it. It doesn't necessarily get down to the root. But I definitely recommend trying them. Definitely.
Okay.
You just...
Don't worry, man. We got you as the contact.
Yeah. It's like you realise, like, we're told we've got 5 senses. Again, flipping back to the start of how we dumb down. We're told we've got 5 senses. See, hear, touch, taste, and feel. That's the one.
Yeah.
There is more. You've got your 6th sense. You've got your intuition. You've got your pineal glands. You know, I believe the way that everything's a lie. The history we're told at school is a lie. I believe giants used to walk the earth. I believe that our pineal gland was a lot bigger than it is today, which is sort of it's a gland in your brain. It's a seat.
So I'm guessing you understand chakras.
Yeah, and not at a deep level. I know what they are and stuff. It's something I do want to understand more. But yeah, not at a deep kind of level. But yeah, it's when you're on shrooms, I've had experiences where, and they've said the same thing. Like, I feel like I've been able to talk to my mates without talking to them. Like, you just pick up what they're saying without opening your mouth. Like, telepathically. It's mad. I know it's a mad thing, but you kind of get a feel.
Your vibes.
Yeah, it's like you can understand what's going on, and they can feel the same. It's a very, very mad experience.
To be honest, my auntie did say something like that. She said her friend was in the corner of the room, and it felt like they were talking, and she said she felt like she was watching
You
her.
feel an energy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like you can pick up energies. Energy is a language. And you can communicate through energy. And getting well into it, like told like history's a lie and stuff. All these big cathedrals and churches and all that, they weren't built by the Christians and all this. They were hijacked by them. You know, this is just my belief. I don't have any facts or anything, on this or anything. It's just information I've gathered over the years, combined together. You know, a lot of them, especially cathedrals, you find by a body of water. Water holds energy. I believe these buildings were antennas where people used to go and they used to be able to communicate around the world through energy. Antennas to direct energy.
On a bigger scale.
Yeah.
I like that.
Okay. So before we move on to the final question by the guest, I've got my final question, which I ask everyone. What's 7 things you can't live without?
Oh. That I can't live without.
Yep.
What a question. 7 things I can't live without. Water. Food. Shit. I couldn't live without leaning into my purpose.
Okay.
That's a big one. I couldn't live without. Couldn't live without helping people now.
Okay.
Big part of me that. I couldn't live a life knowing I'm not operating at my full potential.
Okay.
Is that the same? Is that the same as the first one? The second?
Okay. All right. We'll do another one then. I couldn't. I couldn't live in victim mentality.
Okay.
I couldn't intentionally hurt someone
Okay.
unless it was like they've done something very, 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 very bad.
Yes.
So would you say you
But
would
like, I
never
couldn't
be the
hurt a good
aggressor?
person. Yeah, I think even then though, I'd just be like, I come from a place of just peace now. And then the
Last
last
one.
one I think is I couldn't live in a state of fear.
The final question from our guests.
All right. So our previous guest asked, "What's the secret majority of entrepreneurs are missing to get to the next level?"
They focus on skills and abilities, which is great. They need it. They ain't going anywhere without skills and abilities, but they ain't focusing on the internal shit. Are you captaining your ship aligned? Have you got weeds in your garden? Are you trying to flatten the weeds with coping mechanism? Or are you pulling the root out and then planting a new seed?
Thank you very much, Kieran. Thank you.
Belter, thank you.
Belter.
Come on, let's have it.